making landfall overnight. You see it right there hitting Florida, the first hurricane there since 2005.
And take a look at the storm right now and a look at its path. The storm moving north, millions on alert this holiday weekend, all the way up to New Jersey, where that storm may stall for days. A state of emergency already declared in at least 2 states, and we have team coverage up and down the East Coast. Ginger is starting us off in the Panhandle in St. Marks, Florida. Good morning to you, Ginger.
Good morning to you, Amy, here in St. Marks, where it was a nightmare for so many of us along the coast of Florida. We were in the eye of this storm. This thing passed and made landfall just east of us by a few miles, flooding our big concern. I could easily still walk into thigh or even waist-deep water, and this thing is a tropical storm now in South Georgia, moving northeast, threatening the East Coast.
You gotta move it. Oh!
Overnight, Hurricane Hermine lashing the southeast. Winds over 80 miles per hour. Storm surge reaching up to 6 feet.
It's been a night of tornado warnings, torrential rains, the eye just a couple of miles away.
Hermine is the first hurricane in more than a decade to rock the Sunshine State. 7 hours before landfall, the streets of St. Marks literally becoming the river.
It's a fish. It's a fish in the street.
Please protect your property and evacuate immediately.
Clouds hijacking the sky. Seawater creeping onto the land.
Here it comes.
Rain coming in torrents.
We have sandbags at the door, and we have water over our dock.
Hundreds, like Chaplain Chris Fletcher and his cousin, spent the night in shelters. While Hurricane Hermine damaged homes and buildings along Florida's Panhandle.
Okay, let's see how the hotel's faring. It's right into and up to the door. Oh no, it's starting to get in.
This morning, there is a trail of damage. Homes shredded, hundreds of thousands without power, and entire towns underwater. While the worst may be over for Florida, Hermine now setting her sights on the rest of the East Coast.
And this tropical storm is now in South Georgia, and that is exactly where our Rob Marciano is this morning.
Good morning, Ginger. The center is right over Valdosta. The right eye wall came right through here about 2 hours ago. Very chaotic. Winds gusting over 50 miles an hour. You know, these live oaks, they do pretty good in the wind, but they're covered with Spanish moss, so that's creating a lot of debris. Other tree limbs coming down across Valdosta. We've got power out at our hotel. We've got utility crews at our hotel, no doubt pre-positioned to fan out when the winds die down. They will be doing that here across South Georgia and certainly across Tallahassee, where those tall pines are more susceptible to coming down. 56 counties under a state of emergency today. Schools certainly are closed at this hour, and we've got quite a number of hours before the winds begin to die down here in South Georgia, where they haven't seen a tropical storm or a hurricane here in quite some time. Ginger?
Yeah, Rob, and exactly that point. The outer bands are already reaching into South Carolina. Let's take you straight to the maps now, because that tornado watch extends from South Carolina into central Florida. We also have those tropical storm warnings all the way up through North Carolina. Tropical storm watches that go through the mid-Atlantic up through New Jersey. We'll get to those, but look at this track. It hugs the East Coast. The timing goes through Saturday when it goes back into the Atlantic and then meanders there through the holiday and eventually the midweek. That's why we've got tropical storm watches. Some of the impacts could be beach erosion, coastal flooding, and gusty winds. Not the way we all wanted to head back to school. That is for sure after our Labor Day weekend. Amy and George.
Not at all, Ginger. You use that word meander. You guys are saying that the storm might stall off New Jersey?
In 2015, Oklahoma averaged 2.5 earthquakes a day with a magnitude of 3.0 or higher. A total of 907 at that rating shook the state last year, compared to just 2 in 2008. Oklahoma Geological Survey experts have connected the increase in quakes to the disposal of wastewater from an oil and gas production process known as hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Saturday's quake prompted the state to initiate the fastest and largest shutdown of wastewater wells in state history. 37 are scheduled to be closed.
If we stopped all the activity tomorrow, it's not like the earthquakes would stop tomorrow.
Seismologist Susan Huff of the U.S. Geological Survey says induced earthquakes, mainly caused by wastewater injection wells, aren't as severe as naturally caused ones. But that could change if Oklahoma and other states where fracking is booming don't take note.
Is there a chance things could get worse? We expect that the regulatory steps are going to help overall. The rates are going to go down and the hazard will go down. But we don't have an exact crystal ball. And so There's the potential, certainly, for more earthquakes. There's the potential for bigger earthquakes than what we've seen.
The 37 wastewater wells that are set to be shut down are just a small fraction of the 4,200 currently permitted by the state. Elaine, the Oklahoma governor has declared a state of emergency for the affected area. Mireya, thank you.
Egypt's Rafah border crossing is the sole window to the outside world for Palestinians living in the besieged Gaza Strip. It is the only route that is not under Israel's control. Despite this temporary reopening, around 2 million Gazans continue to suffer due to Egypt's restrictions. One of them is Jamal Abu Quaik, who was shot in 2015 by Israeli forces. Since then, he's been trying to leave Gaza for treatment, but he was denied permission. Egyptian authorities have finally agreed to grant him a transit visa to Jordan through the Cairo airport.
Our suffering here is beyond description because I had to wait for a month to get an approval to travel. I thank God for this chance to leave Gaza for surgery abroad. I honestly don't know when I will be able to return home under these circumstances at the border. It might take me 2 or 3 months.
Those who wish to travel through Rafah terminal must fit Egypt's criteria that includes chronic patients or citizens of a foreign country. The Rafah crossing was opened on Saturday for the period of only 48 hours. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Interior in Gaza, the Rafah crossing must remain open permanently in order to end the plight of the Gazans.
We have around 25,000 humanitarian cases that are registered with the Ministry of Interior. They include patients, students and stranded people with foreign residencies. So far, only 503 people have been allowed to enter the Egyptian side of the crossing. 494 people on the Egyptian side of the crossing also managed to enter Gaza.
Tel Aviv has been imposing an inhumane siege against the tiny coastal sliver since 2007. Observers say Egypt's current punitive measures against the people of Gaza are nothing but to the benefit of the Israeli regime's security. Ashraf Shanan, Press TV Gaza.
Hermine is gaining strength and threatening to become a hurricane again. The slow-moving system has already killed at least 2 people, including a homeless man hit by a falling tree in Florida and a truck driver blown off the road in North Carolina. Storm warnings and watches are posted along the Atlantic coast from North Carolina to Massachusetts. Tony Docopel is on the Jersey Shore.
After mowing through Florida as a hurricane, Tropical Storm Hermine chewed the coast of Georgia and the Carolinas Saturday, bringing heavy rains and punishing wind. Rough seas rocked this Royal Caribbean cruise ship en route from New Jersey to Bermuda. Now Hermine may crash a 5-foot wall of water into the mid-Atlantic. The storm is menacing picturesque coastline from Maryland to Massachusetts, much of it newly rebuilt after Superstorm Sandy tore through in 2012. Tony Vaz is the mayor of hard-hit Seaside Heights, New Jersey.
How bad was the damage here when Sandy came through?
Sandy, devastating. As you see, this has all been rebuilt over the last 4 years, approximately 4 years. The icon of the memory, obviously, is the roller coaster being in the ocean. It was devastating.
Sandy damaged thousands of homes in Ocean County. Residents aren't taking any chances with Hermine, which could bring record floods. Emergency Coordinator Bill Hibble.
The whole staff will be out there just making sure the water is on the other side of the boardwalk. But when the wind shifts, I'm concerned with the Bay Area.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie put Hermine in context.
I want to make this clear. This is certainly not Sandy. Nowhere near that.
But he warned against complacency.
The biggest thing today is for people not to be lulled by the nice weather, that nothing's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
The storm was already washing out holiday weekend plans.
We didn't think it would be this bad with the waves being this, tall, but I would imagine the undertow would take you right out. So, yeah, I can understand their concern.
Instead of one last weekend of summer fun, beaches for hundreds of miles along the Atlantic coast are closed, and swimming is forbidden.
Farther south, storm cleanup continued as officials tried to restore power to thousands of homes from Florida to Virginia. So far, the mid-Atlantic impact is economic.
So I see empty tables here.
Nadir Galani runs Seaside Eatery on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, New Jersey.
Today we were expecting a lot more people, but because of the storms and all the scare, a lot of people turned out, and they had a lot of cancellations. That's what I hear from the motel people.
As Hermine continues to churn up the Atlantic coast, officials are warning residents to secure loose items so they don't become projectiles. Elaine, in Seaside Heights here, many of the homes were elevated after Sandy. For those that weren't, the fire department here has handed out about 500 changes.